Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this Friday, October 7th edition of the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm Aaron Dyke, sitting in as Alex is in Dallas right now, leading a protest against the Federal Reserve, dubbed the Occupy the Federal Reserve protest. If you're anywhere in the area, please join him. The address is 2200 North Pearl Street in Dallas. And again, he's going to be at the Houston branch tomorrow, October 8th, at 1801 Allen Parkway at noon, and in San Antonio on Sunday, October 9th from 10 to noon. So join him if you can. Check the Alex Jones channel on YouTube for continued coverage of those rallies, and let's occupy the Fed. Now, coming up tonight, we have an interview with Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes as he tells us about his call for people to join Occupy the Fed protests. And we also have an exclusive interview, part 2, from what you saw last night with G. Edward Griffin. Alex asked him about the collectivist government and the move to end the Federal Reserve. But first, the news. Now, the State Department has said don't invade the privacy of cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, who was on the CIA kill list. We know that's, of course, because the war on terror is fraudulent and phony, and they don't want to disclose the many connections between al-Awlaki and the system. For instance, it's known that he dined at the Pentagon with top brass. But the government has said it refuses to release the records for the terror leader, who is well known to be the first American that the U.S. government has green-lighted to be killed or captured. Now, furthermore, a secret panel has said it can now put Americans on a kill list, further eroding the protections of the Constitution. And it says there is no public record of the operations or decisions of the panel, which is a subset of the National Security Council, or how they come to their decision. Neither is there any law establishing its existence or setting out the rules by which it is supposed to operate. And even the role of the president is fuzzy in how these decisions were made. Now, it's no surprise that the National Security Council, set up under the 1947 National Security Act, would continue to be extremely secretive, but it's a very bad sign. They're really a backdoor for the elitists who secretly run this country. It's no surprise they don't want to disclose what's going on, but we need to pressure them nonetheless not to operate the government in secret and not to have ad hoc rule of foreign policy. Meanwhile, the Predator drone fleets, which took out Anwar al-Awlaki in Yemen, have been hijacked by a computer virus, and the government does not know why and cannot get it out. We keep wiping it off, they say, and it keeps coming back, says a source familiar with the network infection, one of 3 that told Danger Room about the virus. We think it's benign, but we just don't know. Now, this has taken place nearly 2 weeks ago at the Creech Air Force Base in Nevada. The military's host-based security system doesn't know why it's happening and has tried to remove it multiple times, but they cannot. We don't know what this is going to be. We're going to keep an eye on the story, but it may well be another, quote, mole inside the government subverting the chain of military command. More reasons why having computerized drones is dangerous foreign policy, and we need to try to hold them accountable. In economic news, Fitch slices Spain and Italy's credit rating as the EU crisis deepens. Italy and Spain are embroiled in the region's debt crisis and are reliant on European Central Bank to buy out their government bonds to prevent yields from rising to unsustainable levels, and thus they've been downgraded. Italy from AA- to A+, and Spain from AA+ to AA-, signaling just further problems for the European Union, as even the currency itself threatens to unravel. Where there will be greater globalist control, we can only imagine. Now, the Occupy Wall Street protests have been further co-opted by Democratic factions as MoveOn.org hijacks the Occupy to push Obama tax agenda. That's a story from Paul Joseph Watson, pointing out how the George Soros-funded outfit hopes to turn the Occupy Wall Street protesters into an Obama campaign re-election tool on platforms like taxing the middle class and rich, while the elitists themselves remain offshore, unaccountable to any taxing system. And it's really dangerous because Obama clearly is hoping that, though he's politically dead at the moment, he could be revived by a populist movement and kind of trigger a class warfare scenario. That is something that Rand Paul has also warned about. This story is on the Drudge Report tonight. Rand Paul, Obama's rhetoric could turn Occupy Wall Street protest violent. And we have a clip here. We're going to check out his words right now. Senator Rand Paul.
As far as this Occupy Wall Street movement goes, you know, I see it sort of like a Paris mob. I see the president's rhetoric of envy and inflaming the public and saying, go get yours because rich people don't deserve it. I see it as inflaming this Paris mob that I hope doesn't ultimately result in a lawlessness where they say, well, gosh, those nice iPads through the window should be mine, and why don't I throw a brick through the window to get them because rich people don't deserve to have them when I can't have one.
Now, Rand Paul is warning because, of course, Obama and the Democratic factions are trying to hijack the Occupy Wall Street protests for themselves. These protests do not have a center, and there's a very diverse group of people, none of them with central aims or goals, and they've been largely nonviolent, but there is always that possibility that things could become more violent. I know there's been many suspected provocateurs as clashes with police have risen a little bit, and there's been tensions. We want to remind everyone that nonviolence is the way, and we want to have a big debate about what to do about this economic crisis. We want to educate people about ending the Federal Reserve as they're angry about what's happening on Wall Street and throughout the country, and we need to keep it civil, of course. We hope nothing becomes further violent. Now, we've seen Herman Cain rising in the polls. He's become really, at this moment, according to the most recent polls, the leader of the GOP race for 2012. He's now been polled at 20 points ahead of even Mitt Romney. And he has kind of that Tea Party coloration, but at the same time, he has been an establishment minion and creature of the Federal Reserve, himself being director of the Kansas City branch of the Federal Reserve. It really has spoken out against calls to audit the Fed and hold it into accountable. Let's play that clip right now.
The Federal Reserve already has so many internal audits, it's ridiculous. I don't know why people think we're going to learn this great amount of information by auditing the Federal Reserve. There's no hidden secrets going on in the Federal Reserve to my knowledge. And I tell people, you know, we've got 12 Federal Reserve banks. You find out which district you're in, call them up and go from there.
Now, what Herman Cain is saying here is absolutely ridiculous, and he's just running a smokescreen for the Federal Reserve System, which is holding this country hostage. If you're an individual, sure, you can call up the Federal Reserve and take a tour, and they'll tell you a few nice things, but the important message here is that even Congress cannot find out what's going on at the Federal Reserve because they're secretive and unaccountable. You've seen Ron Paul trying to rein in Ben Bernanke and others from the Federal Reserve, and you've seen Senator Sanders being told no from Ben Bernanke. No, we won't tell you where the money went. That, Herman Cain, is why the Fed needs to be audited, and furthermore, they're not friendly if you just show up at the Federal Reserve Bank. We did show up there 2 years ago, unplanned, unannounced, just to film the building at the Kansas City Federal Reserve where Herman Cain worked, and we were threatened with arrest just for filming the building. We have that clip now. Now, just to explain what's going on in this video, myself and reporter Rob Jacobson were outside the Kansas City Federal Reserve, not on their property, but several hundred yards away in a World War I memorial public park. Yet we were threatened with arrest just for failing to identify when we were, quote, doing nothing wrong, just filming the Federal Reserve Bank.
The Federal Bank heard about you guys taking video of their building, so we just wanted to make sure
I'm sorry?
We were just seeing who you were and what you were doing. What's your name?
My name's Aaron.
Okay.
And we're just
You're fine.
we're just checking out this memorial. So
You're not doing anything wrong, okay? What's your last name, sir?
I'm not going to give you my last name.
Then you guys can see right now.
And you're police officers or security officers?
You're protection officers here. And because you're not cooperating and you go ahead and leave. I asked you a simple question. You're not doing anything wrong. You're videotaping. So,
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Guys, let's go.
Why do I have to leave?
Because you're with him.
Where's the property end?
Up there.
Well, if he gave his name, then he doesn't have to leave.
He did give his name. But
Okay.
it's kind of guilt by association. You guys can go ahead and go.
What is guilt by association?
Sir, we're not going to answer any more
Leave.
questions. You can go to jail or you can leave.
Are you a police officer, sir?
We do have arrest powers. Do you want to go to jail?
Am I under arrest?
No, you're not under arrest. Not yet. You need to leave.
You're encroaching on our First Amendment right.
No, we are not.
Why not? This is public property? We have a right.
Go ahead and go. Now.
Now, these petty authorities were violating a number of constitutional protections, including the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth, and others. But as you heard at the beginning of the clip, it's a little hard to understand if it's the first time you have seen this clip. The Federal Reserve Bank at Kansas City called up these private security guards and told them to come interrogate us and get our names. We know it's not the only time the Federal Reserve has been spying on its political opposition, who remain peaceful to this day. In 2008, in the Fed protests, including the one Alex then attended at the Dallas Federal Reserve, were spied on by Army personnel. We also know that the Federal Reserve has begun tracking bloggers on Facebook and trying to identify key bloggers and monitor conversations about ending the Federal Reserve. I think that those facts say a lot about why we're not going to learn what's going on at the Fed without a lot more political pressure, and that is, again, why you should join the Occupy the Federal Reserve movement right now. And just a quick reminder, Alex is currently at the Occupy the Fed event at the Dallas Federal Reserve in Dallas, Texas. Join him if you're within the area. And he'll again be at the Houston branch tomorrow, Saturday, and the San Antonio branch Sunday. Join him there or join him in spirit at Federal Reserve locations everywhere. Now, we sent reporter Rob Jacobson to New York City this week to cover the Occupy Wall Street protest, and he found what really amounts to a very diverse group of people there for different reasons. And we really need to reach out to those Occupy Wall Street people and try to show them that the Federal Reserve is the most central, most important issue of the larger economic crisis debate. Let's roll some of that footage right now.
This is Rob Jacobson for Infowars.com. I'm standing here at the Occupy Wall Street event. This is the day that the unions are supposed to show up. What we've been finding over the last couple of days is that there is no one central organized structure here, no one message. All the reports on the news showing communist signs, we have not really been able to find many. It is my estimation that the news has been cherry picking very selectively, showing communist kind of rhetoric. It's few and far between people talking like that. Have you seen any communist signs that they've been showing on places like CNN or other media outlets?
Yeah, and then I see a lot of socialism signs, and then a guy has a "Don't Tread Me" flag. Everybody brings their own sort of whatever over here.
This is a movement that is really non-sectarian, and a lot of the cult left, the sectarian left, has tried to come here and sort of hijack the movement.
If I start saying I'm a communist or so, right away, 99% of the average citizens in the country are immediately hostile.
I think the government and the bankers, we just need to tell them to go sit down and we can do it ourselves.
If you want to know what's going on down here, get your ass off your couch, come down here and talk to people. You don't have to sit there and have it be interpreted to you by social purveyors, by economic purveyors who are going to break it down for the masses. People are pissed off and they came down here looking for the truth.
You know, if the news picks up on one and just zooms in and just keeps it there, you can't believe it. It's just going to be a lot of signs all over.
What is your feelings on a communist solution?
It's ridiculous. I don't agree with any of them.
5 minutes! 5 minutes! We're going to start marching!
There you have it, folks. They just announced the march will start in 5 minutes. We'll keep you up to date.
All day, all week! Occupy Wall Street! All day, all week!
Do you feel that a communist solution is the answer?
No. No, of course.
Occupy Wall Street!
We've been to communist countries, and they're not happy places to be.
All day, all week! Occupy Wall Street! All day, all week!
And the stuff that we're angry about, it's all the same. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Libertarian, we're done with the labels.
A lot of people are saying smash quote-unquote capitalism. Do you agree with that?
No, I'm hoping that through this there comes some sort of